It was a rainy Thursday morning, the kind of morning that made the city streets glisten like glass. The sky was a dull gray, and water dripped from the edges of umbrellas as people hurried along trying to escape the drizzle. In the middle of all this, the little cafe on the corner was already crowded, a warm refuge filled with the smell of fresh coffee, pastries, and the faint scent of rain on the pavement. The cafe had its usual morning hum, the hiss of the espresso machine, the clatter of cups and saucers, and the quiet chatter of people escaping the cold outside. Emily had arrived early, hoping to grab a quiet spot before the real rush began. She was tired, but looking forward to a brief moment of calm. Her day had started too early, as it usually did, with a long walk through the wet streets to her small studio apartment. She had just started her job as a graphic designer at a local firm, and mornings were always a rush of emails, deadlines, and coffee. The rain had made the walk slower than usual, her umbrella dripping onto her coat, but she felt relieved when she finally stepped into the warmth of the cafe. Finding a corner table was a small victory. It was one of those tiny tables by the window, just big enough for her laptop, a coffee cup, and her sketchbook. She loved corner tables because they gave her a sense of space, a small island in the middle of the cafe where she could watch people without being watched too much herself. She set down her bag, wiped her damp shoes on the mat, and finally sank into the chair with a sigh of relief. She ordered a cappuccino and pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages and social media while she waited. The cafe was quickly filling up. Couples whispered to each other in low tones, business people typed on laptops, and students with heavy backpacks juggled notebooks and coffee cups. It was the kind of place where everyone seemed to be in a hurry but wanted to appear relaxed. Emily watched the scene with mild amusement, sipping her coffee and enjoying the warm feeling spreading through her chest. She liked observing people. Each person seemed to carry a story she could only imagine. It was then that she noticed him. He appeared at the entrance, shaking off his umbrella, holding a small boy by the hand. The man looked tired, his clothes slightly rumpled, and the boy clutched a stuffed animal, his eyes wide as he took in the crowded room. The man glanced around, clearly searching for somewhere to sit, his expression polite but cautious. The cafe was full, and Emily's corner table was the only spot that seemed open. He approached her, and she could feel his hesitation. "Excuse me," he said softly. "Is it okay if we share your table? It's really crowded, and I don't want to leave my son standing here." Emily looked at him and saw the exhaustion in his eyes, but also a kind of gentleness that was unusual. The little boy tugged at his sleeve, looking up at her with wide, innocent eyes. Without thinking much, Emily nodded. "Of course. You can join me." She smiled, gesturing to the empty chair. The man's face lit up with relief. "Thank you so much. I didn't want to bother anyone," he said, setting his son on the chair carefully before pulling up the seat for himself. The boy, a small bundle of energy despite the early hour, immediately started fidgeting with his backpack, spilling a few crayons onto the floor. Emily bent down to help him pick them up, laughing softly as he chattered about how he liked to draw dinosaurs. They settled into an awkward but comfortable silence at first. Emily returned to her phone, pretending to be busy, while the man adjusted his coat and tried to keep his son occupied. But it wasn't long before small talk began. "I'm sorry I didn't catch your name," he said after a moment, glancing at her with a polite curiosity. "I'm Emily," she replied. "And this is—" "Well, we haven't really introduced him properly," she added, nodding toward her own empty coffee cup as if that mattered. "I'm Daniel, and this little guy is Liam," he said, smiling down at the boy, who waved shyly at Emily. "We're just trying to survive the morning rush," Daniel added with a quiet laugh. Emily chuckled, recognizing the universal struggle of parenting. She didn't have children herself, but she had nieces and nephews she adored and a deep respect for anyone trying to juggle a child in everyday life. The conversation began slowly. Small questions about the weather, the cafe, and the boys' favorite cartoons. Liam, sensing a friendly listener, started pointing out pictures in the cafe, asking Emily if she knew what they were. She played along, making guesses, and soon the little boy was giggling at her wrong answers. Daniel relaxed, watching Emily interact with his son. There was an ease between them, a quiet comfort that neither expected when they first met. As the minutes passed, the chatter around them seemed to fade. Emily found herself drawn into Daniel's stories. He spoke about the small joys and frustrations of being a single father, The early morning breakfasts, the endless laundry, and the constant effort to make sure Liam felt safe and loved. He spoke with honesty and warmth, never exaggerating, never seeking pity. Emily listened, genuinely interested, and laughed at the little anecdotes he shared. There was something refreshing about him, a sincerity that made her forget about the rain outside, the crowded cafe, and even her busy day ahead. She noticed small things that revealed more than his words ever could. The way he carefully handed Liam a muffin without spilling crumbs, the way he gently corrected him when he tried to climb onto the chair, and the quiet patience he displayed even when the boy became fussy. Emily couldn't help but admire him, not for his appearance or charm, but for the simple human way he cared for his child. It was rare, she thought, to meet someone who seemed so naturally good. Liam, sensing that Emily was friendly, crawled onto her lap briefly, showing her his favorite toy and asking questions about the drawings in her sketchbook. Emily laughed, her heart softening with amusement and curiosity. She realized she had been staring at her phone too much lately, caught in deadlines and deadlines. And here was a small reminder of the simple joys in life. A child's laughter, a shared smile, a quiet moment of connection with a stranger. Time passed without either of them noticing. Coffee cups were emptied and refilled. Rain tapped steadily against the window, creating a rhythm that made the cafe feel even cozier. Emily found herself sharing small personal stories, her work, her dreams, the little challenges of her day-to-day life. Daniel listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions and offering kind words of encouragement. There was no awkwardness, no pretense, just two people sharing a moment in the middle of a busy world. At some point, Emily realized she had no idea about Daniel's life beyond what he had shared. She didn't know that he was a millionaire businessman, the owner of a successful tech company, or that he managed a team of employees and made decisions that affected thousands of lives. To her, he was simply a tired, devoted father, trying to navigate a chaotic morning with patience and care. That lack of knowledge made the moment feel even more genuine. There was no status, no expectation, just human connection. Daniel, too, was unaware of how Emily's presence had shifted his morning. Her warmth, her laughter, her willingness to let him join her table. It was a small gesture, but it made the world feel lighter for him. For a brief time, he could forget the pressures of work, the endless responsibilities, and simply enjoy being a father and sharing a laugh with someone who seemed to care, even in a small way. As they finished their coffee, Emily packed her things, preparing to leave for work. Daniel gathered Liam's belongings, making sure nothing was left behind. "Thank you for letting us join you," he said, his tone sincere. "It really helped me more than I can say." Emily smiled, shrugging as if it were nothing. "It was no problem. He's a cute little guy and you seem like a good dad." Liam waved goodbye, a big smile on his face, and Emily felt a pang of unexpected affection. There was something heartwarming about seeing a small child happy and secure in the care of someone who loved him deeply. She realized that mornings like these, filled with chance encounters and small kindnesses, were rare and precious. As she stepped out into the rain again, Emily felt a strange mix of contentment and curiosity. She wondered about the man and the boy, what their lives were like beyond the cafe, and whether she would ever see them again. But there was no need for answers right now. The moment had been enough, a small human connection in a busy world, a reminder that kindness and openness could create unexpected, meaningful experiences. Emily walked to work with a lighter step, her umbrella dripping, her coat damp, but her heart warm. She didn't know it yet, but this small encounter in a crowded cafe was the beginning of a story that would change both of their lives in ways neither could have imagined. And all of it had started with a simple act of letting someone join her table, a small gesture that opened the door to connection, friendship, and something more. Emily couldn't stop thinking about that morning in the cafe. The memory of Daniel and little Liam stayed with her, lingering in the corners of her mind like a soft echo. She tried to focus on work, opening her laptop and diving into designs, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the conversation, the way Daniel had handled his son, the gentle way he had spoken, the small humor in his smile. It was unusual for her to be so affected by someone she had met for only a short time, but there was something different about him. Something real. The next few days passed quickly. Emily went through her usual routine, waking up early, walking through the streets slick with rain and leftover puddles, catching buses and working long hours. The city was alive in its constant movement. But the cafe encounter lingered. She remembered the way Liam had laughed, the way Daniel had looked at him, and a small smile came to her face during even the busiest moments. She found herself replaying their conversation, remembering details she wouldn't usually notice. The way Daniel's eyes lit up when he talked about little things, the softness in his voice when he addressed Liam, the unspoken patience that made everything feel calm, even in a crowded cafe. By midweek, Emily's curiosity began to grow. She wondered if she would ever see them again. The cafe had become a point of small hope in her routine. She found herself glancing at the corner table each morning, hoping that Daniel and Liam might be there. She didn't know why she felt drawn to them. There was no obvious reason, just a sense that meeting them had left a mark on her. It was strange how a simple act of letting someone share a table could ripple through one's thoughts, leaving a feeling that was part curiosity, part warmth, and part something she couldn't quite name. On Thursday, the same rainy weather returned, though not as heavy as before. Emily grabbed her umbrella, careful not to spill her coffee, and headed toward the cafe. As she stepped inside, her heart gave a little jump. There they were. Daniel was carrying Liam in his arms, looking a little flustered, but with the same calm kindness she remembered. He looked up and caught her eye, and she smiled, feeling a little lighter in the chest. "Hey," she said softly, surprised but happy. "We meet again." Daniel smiled, a little embarrassed. "I guess we do. Mind if we join you again?" he asked, nodding toward the same corner table. Emily shook her head. "Not at all. Please come in," she said, gesturing to the empty chair. Liam wriggled with excitement, giggling as he climbed onto the chair, clutching his stuffed toy tightly. Emily reached over to adjust it, smiling at the little boy. As they settled in, the conversation began naturally, like it had before. Emily asked about their week, and Daniel shared small stories about work and parenting, always careful not to bore or overwhelm. He spoke about the challenges of balancing meetings, deadlines, and caring for Liam, but also about the small joys, the drawings Liam had made, the funny things he had said, the little victories that made him proud as a father. Emily listened, genuinely interested, and laughed at the little anecdotes. She felt a rare sense of ease, as if she had known Daniel and Liam for much longer than just a few days. Liam, full of energy as always, pointed out items in the cafe, asked questions, and occasionally tried to climb onto Emily's lap again. She played along, enjoying his curiosity and laughter. There was something about spending time with children that reminded her of life's simpler joys, something she had almost forgotten in the rush of work and deadlines. She felt warmth spreading through her chest as she watched Daniel respond with patience, guiding Liam gently, correcting him kindly, and making small jokes to keep him entertained. Emily realized that Daniel had a rare quality. Despite whatever pressures he was under, she didn't know how much responsibility he carried. He remained calm, kind, and fully present with his son. It was a quiet strength, something she hadn't often seen in adults. She admired him silently, finding herself drawn to the way he handled life with grace even when it was difficult, and yet he never seemed to notice the admiration. He was too focused on Liam and on making the moment as pleasant as possible. As they talked, Emily found herself opening up more than she usually did. She spoke about her work, her small frustrations with deadlines, her hopes for future projects, and even her occasional doubts about her abilities. Daniel listened without judgment, nodding, asking gentle questions, and offering encouragement when appropriate. Emily felt a sense of being heard that was rare in her everyday life, a small but meaningful connection that made her heart feel lighter. Time passed quickly, unnoticed by all three. Outside, the rain continued to fall softly, tapping on the windows and creating a rhythm that made the cafe feel even cozier. Emily and Daniel shared stories and laughed together, while Liam added small bursts of chaos that only made the moment feel more real. The cafe staff moved efficiently between tables, but Emily hardly noticed them, absorbed in the human connection she hadn't expected that morning. Eventually, Daniel reached for his phone, checking the time. He sighed softly. "I hate to rush off, but we have a few errands to run before the day gets completely away from us," he said. Emily nodded, understanding completely. Life rarely paused for anyone, and she had her own responsibilities waiting. Before they left, Daniel looked at Emily with a kind, almost shy expression. I really appreciate your company these past few days. It's been nice, a rare kind of nice, he said, smiling faintly. Emily smiled back, feeling warmth at his words. It's been lovely for me too. I'm glad we ran into each other again, she replied. Liam waved enthusiastically, and Emily waved back, laughing at his energy. As they gathered their things and left the cafe, Emily found herself thinking about the small, unexpected joys of life. She realized how rare it was to meet people who made you feel genuinely comfortable, who reminded you of the good in the world. Daniel and Liam had done just that. In just a few short mornings, they had brought light into her routine, reminded her of patience, kindness, and the simple happiness of shared moments. The next few days after that encounter were filled with anticipation. Emily found herself looking forward to her visits to the cafe, wondering if she might see them again. She didn't know it yet, but these moments were building something quiet and meaningful, a connection based on genuine human kindness, untainted by expectations or assumptions. She had no idea that Daniel's life was so different from what it appeared, that he carried responsibilities and wealth she could never have guessed, nor did she care at that moment. To her, he was simply a man trying his best, and she respected and admired that deeply. One morning, Emily arrived at the cafe a little early. She ordered her usual coffee and found the corner table waiting for her. Minutes later, Daniel and Liam arrived, their presence bringing a comforting familiarity. Morning, Daniel said, carrying Liam, who waved at Emily immediately. Hope we're not interrupting your peace, he added with a faint smile. Emily shook her head. Not at all. I'm happy to see you both, she said warmly. They spent the next hour sharing small stories, laughter flowing easily between them. Emily felt a sense of ease she hadn't realized she had been missing. Daniel spoke about the challenges of his week, but always found a humorous or heartwarming angle, and Emily shared her own stories without fear of judgment. Liam occasionally interrupted with his small adventures, pointing at something outside the window, asking a curious question, or handing a drawing he had made to Emily. Each interruption felt natural, grounding, and somehow magical in its simplicity. Emily noticed a subtle change in herself. She felt more present, more attuned to the world around her. She laughed more easily, noticed details she might have overlooked, and felt a renewed sense of empathy. There was something about observing Daniel with his son, the patience and love he displayed so naturally, that made her want to be better, kinder, and more aware of the people around her. Daniel, too, felt a shift. He realized that mornings with Emily were no longer just a convenience or a small break from routine. They had become moments he looked forward to, a brief but meaningful escape from the constant pressure of his responsibilities. He appreciated her attention, her kindness, and the way she interacted with Liam without any expectation. Emily had a way of making him feel seen and appreciated in a manner that was rare in his life. Despite his success and social status, over time, these small interactions created a rhythm, a quiet companionship that didn't need to be named or defined. They shared laughter, small stories, and the occasional serious conversation, creating a foundation built on trust and genuine human connection. Emily felt comfortable around Daniel in a way she rarely did with strangers, and he, in turn, trusted her instincts, her kindness, and her understanding without hesitation. One morning, as rain fell gently outside, Emily looked at Daniel and Liam and realized something she hadn't expected. These encounters had begun to feel like a part of her life. The anticipation of seeing them, the comfort of shared moments, the warmth of their presence, and even the challenges of keeping up with a lively child had woven themselves into her routine. It was remarkable how quickly strangers could become meaningful parts of one's world, simply through shared presence, openness, and small acts of kindness. As she walked home that day, Emily felt a quiet happiness, a contentment that came not from grand gestures or extraordinary events, but from the simple human connections she had experienced. She knew that these mornings, these conversations, and this unusual friendship were just beginning, and while she couldn't predict what would happen next, she felt a gentle excitement at the possibilities. For now, she carried the memory of their laughter, the warmth of their smiles, and the simple joy of a father and son who had entered her life unexpectedly. It was enough to make her heart lighter, her perspective brighter, and her days a little more full of hope. And she had no idea how much more their story would grow, how deeply their lives would intersect. or how much she would come to value the presence of two strangers she had met in a crowded cafe on a rainy morning. The next morning, Emily woke up with a quiet excitement she hadn't felt in a long time. She made herself a cup of tea, sitting by her small kitchen window as the city slowly came alive outside. The streets were wet from an overnight drizzle, and the faint smell of rain lingered in the air. She sipped her tea slowly, thinking about the past few days and the way Daniel and Liam had unexpectedly entered her life. It was strange how a chance encounter in a crowded cafe could leave such an impression, but she couldn't deny that she looked forward to seeing them again. By the time she arrived at the cafe, it was busier than usual. People jostled for seats and the soft hum of conversation filled the room. She carried her umbrella, dripping slightly on the floor, and spotted her usual corner table. To her relief, it was open. She set her bag down, ordered her usual cappuccino, and took a deep breath, letting the warm smell of coffee calm her nerves. Not long after, Daniel appeared at the entrance, holding Liam by the hand. The boy's small backpack bounced as he skipped along, and Daniel's coat was damp from the light rain outside. When Daniel noticed Emily, he gave a small, shy smile. Emily smiled back, feeling the familiar warmth that always seemed to appear whenever they met. "Good morning," she said softly. "Morning," Daniel replied, his tone calm but slightly flustered as he held Liam close. "Hope we're not interrupting anything." "Not at all," Emily said, gesturing to the empty chair at the table. Liam wriggled with excitement, climbing onto the seat and handing Emily a small toy car he had brought with him. She laughed softly. "Thank you, I'll take good care of it," she said, turning the toy in her hands and smiling at the little boy. Liam giggled, clearly enjoying the attention. As they settled in, conversation began naturally, flowing as it had on previous mornings. Daniel talked about the challenges of balancing work and parenthood, sharing small moments that brought humor and warmth to his words. Emily listened, genuinely interested, laughing at his anecdotes and occasionally asking questions that encouraged him to share more. She found herself learning about his world in subtle ways, not the kind that revealed wealth or status, but the kind that showed the dedication and care he put into being a father. Liam, full of energy as always, asked questions about Emily's work and showed her drawings he had made the night before. Emily admired his creativity, commenting on his use of color and the little details he had included. She could see Daniel's pride in his son's accomplishments, the soft glow in his eyes that only a parent could have when watching a child explore the world. Emily felt a warm sense of admiration for Daniel, realizing how deeply he cared and how much responsibility he carried quietly, without complaint. As they talked, Emily noticed subtle signs that made her curious. Daniel's confidence in handling situations, the way he seemed to know how to respond to people without needing instruction, and the small moments where strangers seemed to recognize him or give him polite nods. It all hinted at a life far beyond what she could imagine. She didn't press, though. She wanted to enjoy the moments as they were, without assumptions or expectations. To her, he was simply a man who loved his son and handled life with patience and kindness. Over the next hour, the conversation deepened. Emily shared more about her work and her hopes for the future, and Daniel listened carefully, offering encouragement when needed. He told her about the small victories of parenthood, like teaching Liam to ride a small bike or helping him build a simple wooden toy. Emily laughed at the little mishaps he recounted, feeling a sense of connection that was rare in her daily life. There was something grounding about these moments, a gentle reminder that life could be both challenging and beautiful at the same time. Liam, sensing the relaxed atmosphere, climbed onto Emily's lap again, showing her the toy car and asking her to imagine it on a racetrack. Emily played along, lifting it carefully and pretending it zoomed across the table. Liam giggled uncontrollably, his laughter filling the small corner of the cafe. Daniel watched quietly, a small smile on his face, clearly enjoying the interaction between Emily and his son. There was a sense of ease between the three of them, a rare comfort that felt natural and unforced. As the morning passed, Emily noticed how little things mattered. The way Daniel handled spilled coffee with calm humor, the way Liam insisted on telling stories even when they were long and slightly confusing, and the way conversation flowed effortlessly, despite the chaos of the cafe. It was a reminder that human connection didn't need to be complicated. It simply required presence, patience, and kindness. Emily felt grateful for the small, unexpected joy of sharing these mornings with them. At one point, Daniel checked his watch and sighed softly. "I need to pick up a few things before Liam's next class," he said. "Would you like to come along?" Emily hesitated, surprised. She wasn't sure what to expect, but there was something inviting in his tone. A quiet trust. "Sure," she said after a moment. "I'd like that." Liam squealed with excitement, clearly thrilled by the idea of sharing his morning adventures with Emily beyond the cafe. They left the cafe together, stepping into the gentle drizzle. Emily walked beside Daniel, keeping pace as he held Liam's hand. They passed small shops, bakeries, and the occasional passerby, with Liam skipping ahead and then running back to show them something interesting. Emily felt a sense of lightness she hadn't felt in years, a reminder that life's simple joys often came unexpectedly. During their walk, Daniel shared more about his week, talking about small victories and challenges at work, always careful not to overwhelm Emily with details. She listened attentively, asking questions when appropriate and offering her perspective when asked. It wasn't about the specifics of his career, but the way he approached problems and responsibilities with quiet confidence that impressed her. She could see the dedication he carried in every action, the care he put into every small decision, and the love he poured into raising Liam. At one point, they stopped by a small park where Liam could play for a while. Daniel set him down gently, and Emily watched as the boy ran toward the swings, laughing and shouting with joy. She noticed the way Daniel's eyes followed him, the subtle tension and relief as he made sure Liam was safe. Emily felt a deep respect for him, realizing how difficult it must be to balance so much responsibility while remaining patient and kind. It wasn't something that could be taught. It came from genuine love and care. Emily and Daniel found a bench nearby and sat together, talking quietly as Liam played. The conversation drifted naturally from light topics to more personal reflections. Daniel asked Emily about her childhood, her dreams, and what made her happiest. Emily shared memories of family trips, her favorite hobbies, and small lessons she had learned over the years. Daniel listened with genuine interest, occasionally offering insights of his own. There was no pressure, no judgment, just two people sharing a quiet space and learning about each other in a way that felt both rare and comforting. As the morning turned into afternoon, Emily realized how much she valued these moments. She had never expected to feel so connected to someone she had met only a few days ago, yet the ease and authenticity of their interactions made it feel natural. Daniel's quiet strength, patience, and humor, combined with Liam's innocence and energy, had created a space where Emily could be fully present, fully herself, and fully appreciative of life's small joys. Eventually, Daniel suggested it was time to head back. Liam protested briefly, reluctant to leave the swings, but Daniel gently coaxed him along. Emily walked beside them, carrying Liam's backpack and chatting with both father and son. The walk back to the cafe was filled with laughter, shared stories, and small observations about the city around them. Emily felt a sense of belonging she hadn't anticipated, as if these moments had woven themselves into her daily life in a way that was quietly transformative. Back at the cafe, they returned to the corner table, ordering another round of coffee and juice for Liam. The familiarity of the space added to the comfort, making it feel like a small ritual they were creating together. Emily noticed the subtle gestures, the way Daniel poured Liam's juice carefully, the way Liam insisted on showing Emily every new drawing he had made, the way conversation flowed effortlessly, even when small interruptions occurred. It was in these small details that Emily felt the depth of connection growing, a sense that these mornings were more than just casual meetings. They were building something meaningful. As they finished their drinks, Daniel looked at Emily with a quiet expression. "I've enjoyed this more than I expected," he said softly. Emily smiled, feeling the warmth of sincerity in his voice. "Me too," she replied. "It's been nice. Really nice." Liam, sensing the seriousness of the moment, leaned on Emily's shoulder, giggling softly. Emily laughed, ruffling his hair, and Daniel chuckled quietly, watching the interaction with a soft smile. Before leaving, Daniel suggested they keep this routine going. A small weekly ritual where they could spend mornings together, share stories, and enjoy each other's company. Emily agreed without hesitation, feeling a rare sense of excitement and anticipation. She knew that these small moments of connection, kindness, and shared joy were the kind of experiences that stayed with people long after the days ended. She walked home that afternoon. Emily reflected on the morning. She realized that life's beauty often came in unexpected forms: a chance encounter, a shared laugh, a quiet moment of understanding. Daniel and Liam had entered her life in a way she hadn't predicted, bringing warmth, laughter, and a sense of meaning that she hadn't realized she had been missing. She smiled to herself, feeling gratitude for the simple act of letting someone join her table in a crowded cafe, unaware that it was the beginning of a story that would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. And in that quiet walk home, with the drizzle soft on her umbrella and the city bustling around her, Emily felt a quiet certainty that this was only the beginning. There were more mornings, more conversations, more small adventures to come. And somehow she knew that every moment with Daniel and Liam would be filled with the same warmth, laughter, and human connection that made life feel truly alive. A week had passed since Emily's last morning with Daniel and Liam, but she hadn't stopped thinking about them. The city had a different feel now, as if the memory of those mornings had quietly changed the rhythm of her own life. She walked to the cafe that Thursday with a small excitement she could not shake, feeling a mix of curiosity and anticipation. The rain had stopped overnight, leaving the streets sparkling in the early sunlight, and she felt lighter than usual, as if the mornings with Daniel and Liam had filled some empty space she hadn't realized existed. As she entered the cafe, the familiar hum of chatter and the scent of fresh coffee greeted her. Emily's eyes immediately searched for her corner table, and to her relief, it was open. She placed her bag down and ordered her usual cappuccino, savoring the warmth that spread through her hands as she held the cup. Minutes later, she spotted Daniel and Liam approaching. Liam waved eagerly, carrying a small toy airplane in his hand. Daniel smiled politely at her, looking slightly more composed than usual, though the same quiet warmth lingered in his eyes. "Morning," Emily said softly, smiling at both of them. "Good morning," Daniel replied, setting Liam down gently on the chair. "I hope it's okay if we join you again," he added. Emily waved him over, feeling that small sense of continuity that had become comforting over the past days. Liam immediately began talking about the airplane, pointing to the wings and explaining how it could fly super fast. Emily listened and nodded, laughing quietly at his enthusiasm. As they settled in, conversation flowed naturally. Daniel spoke about his week, sharing small moments of joy and challenge in raising Liam, always careful not to overwhelm Emily with details about work. Emily listened with genuine interest, offering her thoughts and encouragement. The bond they had been forming felt stronger now, built on trust, laughter, and small shared moments. While Liam played with his airplane and occasionally climbed onto Emily's lap, she noticed something unusual about Daniel. There was a confidence in the way he carried himself, a quiet command in his gestures that suggested a life far more complex than the simple mornings they shared. It was subtle, the way other customers gave him brief nods or quiet smiles, the careful attention he seemed to give when stepping around people, but it made her curious. She didn't push, choosing instead to enjoy the genuine simplicity of their time together. After a while, Daniel leaned closer, speaking in a softer tone. "There's something I wanted to ask you," he said quietly. "Would you be interested in joining me for a charity event this weekend? It's a small program I help organize for single parents. Nothing formal, just a few activities and some support for families like mine." Emily blinked, surprised. She hadn't expected to be invited outside of their brief mornings, but something in his tone made the invitation feel sincere, unpressured, and even a little personal. "I'd love to," she replied after a moment, feeling a flutter of excitement. "It sounds meaningful, and I'd like to help if I can." Liam clapped his hands happily, and Daniel smiled at both of them. "Great, I think you'll enjoy it," he said. "It's not a big deal, just a chance to give back and spend time with families who need a little support." Emily nodded, sensing that there was more to Daniel than he let on, but choosing to focus on the kindness of the gesture rather than the questions her curiosity raised. The morning continued with laughter, shared stories, and Liam's constant energy keeping both adults on their toes. Emily found herself marveling at Daniel's patience and calm, especially when Liam became restless or dropped his toy airplane for the third time. Daniel never lost composure. He guided Liam gently, making small jokes and encouraging him without raising his voice. It was clear that his love for his son was unwavering, and Emily felt a quiet admiration for him, recognizing how rare such balance and care could be. After they finished their drinks, Daniel checked his watch and suggested a short walk before the cafe got too crowded. Emily agreed, and the three of them stepped out into the sunlight. The city felt lively yet calm, the weekend approaching with its promise of possibility. They wandered along familiar streets, Emily enjoying the simple rhythm of walking beside them, observing their interactions, and noticing the quiet ways Daniel managed both life and his child with grace. At one point, Daniel paused outside a small bookstore, glancing at the window display. "Liam loves books," he said, smiling. "Would you like to pick one out for him?" Emily nodded enthusiastically, enjoying the idea. Inside, the smell of paper and ink filled the small shop, and Liam immediately ran toward the children's section, pointing at colorful covers. Emily followed, crouching beside him to help him choose. They picked a book about adventure and friendship, and Liam's eyes lit up with excitement. Daniel watched them with a gentle smile, clearly pleased to see his son happy. On their walk back, Emily felt a sense of quiet curiosity building inside her. She noticed small hints about Daniel's life, how people seemed to respond to him with subtle recognition, how he managed interactions with a calm authority, and how he carried himself with a confidence that went beyond casual appearances. She realized that there was more to him than the tired but kind father she had first met in the cafe. But rather than feel intimidated or distant, she found herself even more intrigued, wanting to understand him better while appreciating the person he showed her in these moments. When they returned to the cafe, Daniel suggested sitting outside for a while, enjoying the sun that had finally broken through the clouds. Liam played quietly on the small patio, occasionally running to Emily for attention or to show her his new book. Daniel and Emily talked more freely now, sharing small stories about their childhoods, their hopes, and the little challenges that shaped who they were. The conversation flowed easily, and Emily felt a sense of ease she hadn't experienced in years, a rare comfort in human connection that went beyond casual acquaintanceship. As the afternoon stretched on, Daniel hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "I realize you don't know much about me," he said gently. "There are parts of my life I don't usually share with people, but I feel like I can tell you a little." Emily looked at him, curious and attentive, sensing that whatever he shared would be meaningful. Daniel took a deep breath and began speaking quietly about the responsibilities he carried, the work he did, and the ways he tried to make life better for his son. He didn't mention wealth or status directly, but his words hinted at a life far more complicated and demanding than Emily had imagined. Emily listened without judgment, focusing on the humanity in his story rather than any material implications. She realized that Daniel's strength, patience, and warmth weren't just qualities of a kind father. They were the result of years of dedication, effort, and careful decision-making in all areas of his life. She felt a deeper respect for him, recognizing that the life he carried was full of responsibilities that could easily overwhelm anyone, yet he remained grounded and compassionate. Liam interrupted occasionally, asking questions or showing off his toy airplane, and Emily laughed along, appreciating the balance between serious conversation and playful moments. Daniel handled the interruptions with ease, never impatient, never flustered. Emily realized that this balance, this calm presence in the face of multiple demands was rare and beautiful. It wasn't about perfection. It was about humanity, love, and the quiet strength required to care for someone else so fully. As the sun began to lower, Daniel suggested they head back to their routines. Emily packed her things, feeling a strange mix of contentment and curiosity. She had glimpsed a side of Daniel that hinted at a larger life, a life full of complexities she didn't yet understand, but she didn't feel intimidated or distant. Instead, she felt a growing sense of connection trust and admiration for a man who carried responsibility with such quiet grace. Before leaving, Daniel smiled at Emily. "I hope you'll join us for the charity program this weekend," he said, his tone both hopeful and sincere. Emily nodded. "I wouldn't miss it," she replied. Liam waved, giving Emily a big grin, and she waved back, laughing softly. As Emily walked home, she thought about the morning and the ways in which small human connections could grow into something meaningful. She realized that life often brought people together in unexpected ways, and the kindness of letting someone join a table in a crowded cafe could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. Daniel's quiet humanity, his dedication to his son, and his gentle strength had left a lasting impression on her, and she found herself eagerly anticipating the moments yet to come. That evening, Emily reflected on what she had learned. Life was more than routine, deadlines, and personal struggles. It was about the people we met, the small kindnesses we offered, and the trust and connection we nurtured in unexpected places. Daniel and Liam had reminded her of this truth, showing her that the simplest gestures could carry the greatest impact. She felt gratitude for the mornings they had shared, the laughter and the stories, and she knew that these moments were only the beginning of something significant. The following days were filled with anticipation. Emily found herself looking forward to the weekend, wondering what the charity program would be like and imagining the joy of seeing Daniel and Liam again. She realized that this connection had grown beyond casual friendship. It had become a source of warmth, curiosity, and hope. And though she didn't know the full story of Daniel's life, she trusted that the person she had come to know, the kind, patient father and gentle man, was enough to inspire a deep and lasting connection. Emily's mind often returned to the small details of that morning and the ones that followed. Liam's laughter, the careful way Daniel managed him, the soft conversations over coffee, and the quiet moments of shared understanding. It was in these moments that she felt the true weight of human connection, a reminder that relationships were built not on grandeur or status, but on sincerity, kindness, and mutual respect. And as the weekend approached, Emily felt a quiet excitement, a sense that life was opening up in unexpected ways. She didn't know what would happen at the charity program or how her connection with Daniel and Liam might evolve, but she felt certain that these moments, the shared mornings, the laughter, and the small gestures of trust, had already begun to change her life in ways she could never have anticipated. The weekend arrived, and Emily woke with a quiet excitement she hadn't felt in a long time. She made herself a cup of tea and sat by her window, watching the city slowly come alive. The streets were dry now, the sunlight reflecting off glass windows and puddles left over from the rain earlier in the week. She felt a nervous anticipation as she thought about the charity program Daniel had invited her to. It wasn't just curiosity this time, it was something more, a sense that the day would matter in a way she couldn't yet explain. By mid-morning, Emily arrived at the location for the program, a community hall in a quiet neighborhood. She recognized Daniel and Liam immediately as they approached the entrance. Liam waved excitedly, carrying his small toy airplane, and Daniel smiled, looking slightly more formal than in the cafe but still warm and approachable. "Good morning," Emily said softly. "Morning," Daniel replied, his voice calm and welcoming. "I'm glad you made it. I think you'll enjoy it." Liam tugged at Emily's hand, urging her to come along as he rushed inside. Emily laughed softly, following them, feeling the small surge of excitement that comes when you are about to be part of something meaningful. Inside, the community hall was already buzzing with people. Families with children moved between tables filled with crafts, food, and activities. Volunteers directed participants to different areas, and the atmosphere was lively yet calm, a mixture of laughter, chatter, and small bursts of joy. Daniel led Emily to a small group that was setting up a craft table for children, and Emily immediately began helping, handing out paper, markers, and glue. Liam sat beside her, proudly showing off his toy airplane and chatting about his plans for a new drawing. As Emily worked, she noticed something remarkable. Daniel was everywhere at once, moving between tables, checking on volunteers, guiding parents who seemed unsure, all while keeping Liam close. Emily realized that the man she had seen in the cafe, quietly managing mornings with patience, was just a small part of his life. Here he was a leader, a mentor and a guide, helping families in ways that required both compassion and confidence. And yet he never seemed to lose his gentle presence, always offering warmth and attention to those around him. Emily found herself even more impressed than she had expected. It wasn't about wealth or status, it was about humanity. Daniel had built a life that allowed him to care for others, to make a real difference, and he did it without needing recognition or praise. She felt privileged to witness it, grateful that he had allowed her to be part of even a small slice of this world. Liam, meanwhile, was a whirlwind of energy, running between tables and showing off his artwork to anyone who would look, his laughter filling the room. Emily couldn't help but smile at the sight, feeling a sense of belonging in the midst of the busy hall. As the day continued, Emily and Daniel found small moments to talk quietly, away from the children and volunteers. They shared stories about their pasts, their challenges, and their dreams for the future. Emily learned more about Daniel's life, not in terms of money or social standing, but in terms of the responsibilities he carried and the care he put into every decision. She realized that the patience and kindness he displayed with Liam in the cafe were not isolated moments. They were a reflection of who he was, a man capable of balancing complexity and compassion with grace. Emily felt a deeper connection forming, one that went beyond casual friendship. She admired Daniel not only for his strength, but for his humility, for the way he navigated life with focus and integrity, while never losing sight of what truly mattered. And she could see it in Liam, too. The child's curiosity, confidence, and warmth were a direct reflection of the love and attention Daniel gave. Emily felt a rare sense of inspiration, recognizing that human connections, even small ones, could ripple outward and create something meaningful in ways one couldn't always predict. During a quiet break, Emily sat beside Daniel and Liam at a small table, sipping her coffee as Liam showed her another drawing. Daniel looked at her, his expression soft and sincere. "I'm glad you came today," he said. "It means a lot to me and to Liam, not just for the program, but personally. It's nice to have someone here who understands, who shares these moments with us." Emily smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "I'm glad I came too. I wasn't sure what to expect, but this feels right. It's good to be here with both of you." Liam, sensing the serious tone of conversation, leaned against Emily's shoulder and whispered, "You're my friend now, right?" Emily laughed softly, ruffling his hair. "Yes, Liam. Your friend always." The boy beamed and Daniel's eyes softened as he watched the interaction, clearly appreciating the bond forming between Emily and his son. It was a simple moment, but for Emily, it captured everything she had begun to value in her growing connection with them: trust, warmth, and shared joy. As the program neared its end, Emily noticed families leaving, volunteers tidying tables, and the general sense of completion settling over the hall. She and Daniel gathered Liam's belongings, helping him pack his drawings and toys. Daniel turned to Emily and smiled, a faint blush on his cheeks. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Not just for today, but for everything over the past week. Your kindness, your patience, your laughter, it's made more of a difference than you know." Emily felt a lump in her throat, touched by his sincerity. "It's been my pleasure," she replied. "I've enjoyed every moment, really." Walking out of the hall together, the sun was lower in the sky, casting a golden light over the streets. Emily felt a quiet happiness, the kind that comes from being part of something larger than oneself, yet deeply personal. She realized that her life had changed subtly but significantly since meeting Daniel and Liam. What had begun as a simple act of letting a stranger join her table had grown into a meaningful bond, one built on shared experiences, kindness, and mutual respect. Daniel suggested a small detour through a nearby park before heading home. Liam ran ahead, eager to show them a small playground he had discovered on a previous visit. Emily followed, enjoying the ease of movement, the warmth of the sun, and the feeling of connection that had grown so naturally. They sat on a bench watching Liam climb and swing, his laughter filling the space around them. Emily felt an overwhelming sense of peace, appreciating the simplicity of the moment, the joy of shared time, the beauty of human connection, and the quiet depth of trust that had formed between them. After a while, Daniel turned to Emily with a gentle expression. "I know we haven't known each other long," he said quietly, "but I feel like we understand each other in a way that doesn't happen often. I don't expect anything, but I hope we can continue these moments, this connection. You've become an important part of our lives." Emily felt her heart swell, touched by his words. "I feel the same way," she replied softly. "It's rare to meet people who make you feel seen and valued in such a simple, genuine way. I'm grateful for both of you." Liam, overhearing part of the conversation, ran over and hugged Emily tightly. "I like you," he said simply, his words pure and honest. Emily laughed softly, hugging him back. "I like you too, Liam," she said. "Very much." Daniel watched, a small emotional smile on his face, clearly moved by the warmth and honesty between them. It was a moment that captured everything Emily had learned over the past week: the power of kindness, the beauty of connection, and the unexpected ways people can enter our lives and change them for the better. As the afternoon faded into evening, they walked back to the city streets, their steps slow and relaxed. Emily felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in a long time. She thought about how much had changed in just a few short days. The initial chance encounter in the crowded cafe, the shared mornings and conversations, the laughter and learning, and now the deeper connection that had grown between them. It was a reminder that life often brings unexpected gifts in the form of people who challenge, support, and inspire us in ways we never anticipated. Before parting for the day, Daniel turned to Emily with a small, thoughtful expression. "I hope this isn't too forward, but would you like to have dinner with us sometime? Just a casual evening, nothing fancy. I think it would be nice to spend more time together outside of these mornings." Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had hoped for this, though she hadn't dared to imagine it so soon. "I'd like that," she replied with a smile. Liam clapped his hands in excitement, jumping up and down. "Yay, dinner. We can play games too." Emily laughed, feeling the joy of the moment, and Daniel chuckled softly at his son's enthusiasm. Walking home that evening, Emily reflected on the journey of the past week. It had started with a simple act of kindness, letting a stranger join her table in a crowded cafe, and it had blossomed into something far richer and more meaningful than she could have imagined. She realized that life often unfolded in unexpected ways, rewarding openness, compassion, and trust with deep and lasting connections. Daniel and Liam had changed her world in subtle but profound ways, and she felt grateful for every moment, every conversation, and every shared laugh. That night, as Emily prepared for bed, she felt a sense of quiet contentment. The world outside continued to move with its usual pace, but inside her heart, something had shifted. She had discovered the joy of connection, the beauty of kindness, and the unexpected ways in which people can enter our lives and make them brighter. Daniel and Liam were no longer strangers. They were friends, companions, and a reminder of the warmth and humanity that exists even in the busiest, most crowded corners of the world. Emily closed her eyes, smiling softly, thinking about the mornings in the cafe, the laughter of Liam, and the gentle presence of Daniel. She knew that this was only the beginning of their story, a story built on trust, kindness, and genuine human connection, and she felt certain that together, they would continue to create moments of joy, understanding, and love, moments that would shape their lives in ways they had never imagined, all starting from the simple act of letting someone join her table one rainy morning.